The other day I was followed around the grocery store and I didn't have a purse with me and I was just carrying my phone, which had my card in it to pay. So I had a cart, was doing my groceries, minding my business, and I kept feeling the presence of someone near me. So I would turn around and I would see this guy who didn't have a cart or a basket, didn't seem to have a real purpose for being there, because every time I turned around to look at him, he would turn and like look at something on the shelf, or like, and the next time he would like pick up a shirt, and like he obviously wasn't shopping. My intuition told me that he was actually following me around, and I almost confronted him and said, you're acting really suspicious and I'm on to you, sort of thing, because it had gone on for quite some time. Like every other aisle that I went into, there he was, pretending. And so my intuition said, this is not okay. Something's off about this guy. And so I decided, when he was turned around, picking up an article of clothing that he wasn't going to buy, I took a picture of him. So I got a bit of a side profile, because I'm like, if this guy has, he's suspicious, I'm just going to take a picture. I just was following my intuition. So I kept shopping, and then I go to the cash, I start chatting with people, I see people I know, blah, 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 and then I forgot about him. Then I go to leave the grocery store, and I stop and make a purchase at the wine store, and I see him walk by. And I said to the lady there, that guy's been suspicious following me around the grocery store. And she was like, oh, he just looked back at you, actually. And so I noticed he had bought something eventually, which was a tube of toothpaste. So I am now aware that he has just exited the building, and I'm about to exit the building seconds later. So I go out, totally hyper aware of my surroundings, as I usually am, and I'm kind of scanning the parking lot, because I'm wondering, where is this guy and what's he thinking about doing? What's he on to next? Anyway, so I go to my car, and he's sitting, not right in front of me, but kitty corner to that one, facing me in the car running. And so I'm feeling a little uneasy, because he's just sitting there staring at me, waiting. And so I see a man coming out of the store, so I stop him and I say, sir, would you mind standing here while I load my groceries into my car, because I'm feeling a little uncomfortable about this guy who's been following me around. And he was like, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Because you know what, when you ask somebody to do that for you, they are 100% going to do that. When a woman doesn't feel safe and she asks anybody, it could have been an older lady, it could have been anyone, they will do that for you. I'm sure of it. I can't imagine anyone saying, no, sorry, I don't care if you don't feel safe, and then walking away. Anyway, it turns out I was chatting with him while I was putting my groceries in, and he turns out to be a retired police officer, so bonus. But the guy stays there. And so I tell my support guy that it's okay to leave. I'm getting into my car now. And so he walks away, and he's watching still. He hasn't taken his eyes off the guy and the whole situation, which I appreciate. And so I go to get into my car, and as I'm opening the door, I look at the guy again, and he's like not looking at anything. He's in his car, it's running, he's just looking up to the corners, and it's just very blatant and obvious, and I'm not taking it, right? So while he's doing this, I take a picture of his license plate, so that actually then I got in my car and I texted my husband the pictures of the guy and his license plate, and I said, if I go missing, this is the guy. And so I start driving away. So I go past a yellow light, so I know that if he's behind me, he has to stop at a red light. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm at a safe distance, but I still felt a little uneasy, and I didn't want to drive home to my teenage daughters with someone possibly following me. So I pulled into the police station. So I went in there and I told them exactly what had just happened, and I said, I've got this license plate, I've got this picture, I've got tattoo, like all of these things that I've got. Like, I swear sometimes I think I should be a detective, or anyway. But intuitively I felt like doing all of these things. It felt like the right thing to do. It felt like it would keep me safe, and so I followed through with them. I reported it, and I know that they can't charge anybody for anything, and I was totally fine with that. I just wanted to red flag there's a guy following people, women, me, whoever else around the grocery store. And I have heard of things like this happening and them going out and stealing purses, but I thought that was funny because I didn't have a purse, and it was obvious I didn't have a purse. I'm just wearing a dress, just grocery shopping with my cart and my phone in my hand. And anyway, so that happened. Then I felt fine after that. I came home, whatever. There's been other incidences. So that's just one. And like my daughter even said, "Do you really think that you're the age that they would want to traffic?" And I that's funny. But at the same time, there's all kinds of reasons to take somebody, right? And we live along the 401, so it's very easy to take somebody and just disappear. So this is probably a prime location for that, and I have heard of many instances of that kind of thing. And so trafficking is a really big thing. A lot of kids get trafficked, kids that go missing, all of these things. Like, this is a real thing, and if you don't already know about that, then take this as your beginning of your rabbit holes to discover how much this happens. It's actually crazy. And so there's a whole industry out there. There's a whole big rabbit hole. Anyway, I'm not going to take you down there. I'm just giving a highlight as to, I followed my intuition. I took pictures. I was very aware of my surroundings. Even if you feel like you're doing something very safe and mundane, just grocery shopping, just be aware of your surroundings. This is not to fearmonger. This is to say, okay, don't put your head in the sand when you're out and about. I'm also very hyper aware because I do have teenage daughters, and even if I had teenage sons, I would probably feel the same way. But there was an incident a few years ago. So this was after 2020, when kids were very vulnerable. They were depressed or different, how it affected all of us in different ways. So there was a lot more vulnerable youth at that time. So I have a story about my daughter, and she was hanging around with this group of people, people from around here, her friends, and there was this random girl from Toronto, this homeless girl from Toronto that was befriending them. And I guess she had a connection to one of them already from some camp she had attended years and years ago. So that was her into the group, right? So this girl hung around. She would come here, and I felt red flags. I wanted to be very mindful of her interactions with my kids. She was my oldest one's age at the time, 15, 16. The kid was staying in a hotel in Brockville, and from Toronto, and was technically homeless, but I guess she had some kind of financial support from, I don't know, the system in some way to pay for her to live at this hotel that's right along the 401. Let me just remind you of that. So this girl would come here. She rang my doorbell at 1:30 in the morning, suicidal, saying she needed my daughter. That was, she needed to talk to her, and she's crying and shaking and just hysterical. So I let her come in because obviously she's a child, and I'm not going to leave her on the front step with all the things that she's saying. So as my daughter gets up and talks to her downstairs, I call the police. Not because I want to call the police on her that she's done anything bad, because I'm still a mom and I still understand that she is a child. But red flags, I do have alarm bells ringing that this is not normal behavior to expect a 15-year-old to be your in the middle of the night counselor, and I'm not going to allow that for my child, right? So I called the police. She was very upset that I called the police, but I said I was just calling to say, what resources does this child have? Who can she call? Is there not a support line, somebody she could go to in the night for these kinds of instances? Because we can't expect another 15-year-old child to be that counselor for her in the middle of the night. Anyway, so the police came. They talked to her, they talked to me separately, and they talked to us all together. And then she said that she was okay to go back to her hotel room, and could my daughter walk her home, walk her back there. And I was like, not a chance. So the police officers offered to drive her home, because I think they wanted to also go and check out where she was staying and who was also there. I don't know whatever became after that, but my daughter did block her, and I did feel like her hanging around was kind of like a grooming, try to befriend someone. I mean, I like to think we're untraffickable. I believe we are untraffickable because we're engaged parents. We are very aware of our surroundings, very tapped into our intuition. We notice red flags. We respond to those kinds of things. And so I feel like we dodged another opportunity there for my daughter to be taken, because I feel like that kind of, I don't know if they send girls like this out to befriend young girls. I don't know the whole process. I don't have the mind of a criminal or someone who wants to steal children. But I do believe that this was an opportunity, and because we were aware, and because we were tapped in, and because we were our engaged parents, we were able to see these things for what they were and to intervene. So another thing that happened was someone was was giving away free kittens on Kijiji, and my daughter at the time wanted a kitten, even though I had said nothing more comes into this house that has a heartbeat. I don't want any more pets. We had a cat, we had a dog, maybe we had 2 dogs. No, we only had 1 at the time. But anyway, so super sketchy. When she went to, I didn't know about this, when she went to pick up the kitten in a parking lot nearby, she had a gaggle of kids with her, so they wouldn't have all fit in the car. There would have been a lot of witnesses. And so when they came back with this kitten and shocked me with it, I was so upset. I thought, how could you go and take a kitten from a stranger and not tell me you were doing that? She knew I wasn't going to say yes to the kitten, but that I would probably say, oh yes, you can keep the kitten, after I saw it, which I didn't. We actually all marched back. Well, I had her contact the lady and said, my mom is not letting me keep this kitten. I need to return it. And so we all went back to the kitten dealer, whatever. She was super sketchy when she met us. It was all that weird time where people weren't shaking hands, so she gave me her elbow, which was ridiculous. And she had a beat up old car with a guy with her, and she was either on something or she was just highly suspect. Anyway, so I hope that kitten ended up with a good life, because I have felt like, where did that kitten go? I feel bad about that, but at the same time, I believe I saved my child, and or my other daughter. If they had both gone with her, they would have been able to take them. But because there was like 7 kids with them at the time, that it all worked out, and everybody's fine and safe. But long stories, 3 different stories, 3 different possible opportunities for criminal activity, and because of Mama's intuition, because of my own personal self-awareness, it prevented bad things from happening. So I like to share my own personal stories, because I hope that it resonates for somebody. Even if I'm planting any seeds at all, that's great, and I appreciate that I can spread the word and use a platform to do that. So thank you for listening. Be aware of your surroundings, follow your gut. If something doesn't feel right, take action on it, talk to somebody nearby, take pictures, whatever you need to do. Okay, thank you.